Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of See Good People's Podcast. My name is Kelsey Coop Charles, and with me, as always, I have Antonio Long. And as always, Long, how you doing this evening?
Oh, feeling lovely, dog. Feeling lovely. Been a good week. Looking forward to it. We got a good show for you tonight.
Of course, always. We always had the good content. I'll go ahead and let you kick things off, and then we'll jump right on in.
All right. So for this week's community focus, we gonna highlight me. I feel like it's time. We talk about it. We say it all the time. It's time to take over and charge your own destiny. So as of starting tomorrow, as part of See Good People's Productions, also as part of Tony's Collectibles, we are starting our own t-shirt company. And we're going to be introducing the Legacy Collection. What it is highlighting teams that I grew up with in our community here in South Carolina. We're going to start small from the small town of Ridgeway. I'm quite sure people have heard of it. If you're from the South, you've heard of Ridgeway, South Carolina, for one reason or another. So we're going to talk about some of the things that made us popular in Ridgeway, South Carolina. And we're going to start with that. And then we're going to expand across the state of South Carolina. But we're starting off with t-shirts, hoodies. Since the little kids love to wear this stuff, I'm taking control of my own destiny. And we're going to move forward with some things. Bring some positivity to the community, and also, just to be honest, tired of working for other people, man. Might as well do it for myself. This is part of what we do. We finna kick some things full bore. The podcast is finna go full bore. The business is finna go full bore. So this is just step one, part two of step one. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna expand the podcast in different ways until we get to the point where me and Kelsey is going to be household names, and that's going to happen. So we're looking forward to it. All right.
For sure.
All right. So for tonight's show, now that we got community focus on, I am looking so forward to this. I've been waiting for it all week. We're going to stay in the great city of Atlanta, Georgia. We're going to go back to 1990 at the beginning. I would say probably the best decade as far as female artists. This is part two of our last week we did Escape. This week we're going to do the great group TLC.
All right. Let's go ahead and kick that off. TLC. The group was formed, I don't want to misquote, about 1990. The original two members, Lisa Left Eye Lopez and Tion T-Bars Watkins.
My baby. Yes. My baby.
Along with Crystal Jones, formed a group. And actually in that group, T-Bars and Left Eye kind of clicked with each other a little bit better than they did. Crystal got in touch with Pebbles, they signed a deal, went before L.A. Reid. I'm just giving you the truncated history of how it got started. And then went and performed for L.A. Reid. He liked T-Bars, he liked Left Eye, but he didn't like Crystal. So Pebbles came up with the idea, coming up with Chili. Chili was I guess she was doing some backup dancing for one of the local artists.
Yeah, she was a backup dancer for Damian Dane.
Yeah, so after that, the group bought Chili in, and pretty much the rest is history. There's the early days anyway. We all know about, well, I'm not going to jump the gun. I'm going to let you take over for a minute. We'll dive a little bit deeper into it.
Well, we step back to Miss Crystal Jones. She was a part of the original trio. She came up with the concept of a three female group basically off of BBD, who had came out and had success at the time, breaking away from New Edition. Wanted that hip hop, smooth out feel, kind of the New Jack Swing, which was taking over at the time. And this was the opportunity for them. And they first came out, their name was Second Nature.
Second Nature, right.
When they went to see LA, they performed first for Pebbles, who was married to LA at the time. And now there's some discrepancy in this story. One of the things that said that the reason why Crystal Jones was not part of TLC in the beginning was because of the fact she wanted her lawyers to look at the contracts before they actually signed them and signed to LaFace. Pebbles kind of balked at that because she was saying it was a standard deal. Now, this is going to come up later on when we talk about TLC from a contract standpoint. Because she balked at wanting to let lawyers look at it, Pebbles elected, quote unquote, to have her removed from the group. And that's when she brought in Chili, who was also, Damian Dame at the time was part of LaFace Records. And it was part of what they were migrating to, because at that time, this was when LaFace was really just starting out, and they were acquiring a lot of talent that was from the Atlanta area at the time.
Now, we also have to interject this in too, because I follow Dallas Austin a lot. During this time, I think Dallas had an office in New York.
Yes.
So LaFace was down south making all the deals. Dallas had personal relationships with some of these people, but it's good. I mean, good to make a note of that, because Dallas is very prominent in the music industry, both in the South and up north. I mean, just in the music industry altogether, because he was also instrumental in putting Puff on, gave Puff the office and everything, to get started with Bad Boy Records and all that stuff. But during that time, I think Dallas was back and forth between Atlanta and New York.
So, well, during this time, if you bring it up Dallas, during this time, Dallas was working with Arista Records, which at the time was Clive Davis was in charge of Arista Records, which also held Bad Boy, also held LaFace. So that's how all of that conglomerated together. Dallas was very, very big in the music game prior to meeting these ladies.
Yes.
But when he did and TLC was brought together, they started working on their demo tape. And with that demo, they started working with Dallas as the primary producer for that demo, but also Jermaine Dupri. And this is how this had far-reaching effects. Also, Marley Marl. Marley Marl, if you're not familiar with Marley Marl is the instigator and originator of the symphony. He was a big influence of the Big Daddy Kane, LL Cool J, Edo G and the Bulldogs. The symphony itself, Marley did The Bridge Is Over with MC Shan. All of that. So very deep roots in hip hop, starting from the beginning. But you had three of the best producers that have ever been producing on the scene, helping these three young ladies.
Right. So we're gonna fast forward. Second Nature. You already spoke on the exit of Crystal, and so the group signed. Signed Pebbles contracts. She took them out to dinner. She signed them that night. TLC thought they were on their way. Like I said, we'll get into the contract a little later on, but the contract heavily favored Pebbles, and like you alluded to before, there's a couple of different sides to that story, but I think in Pebbles' mind and what she still feels to this day, and I can't speak for or against it. That contract was, I guess, designed. It was a standard contract at the time, but it was designed kind of to, in her mind, protect TLC's interests. She was heavy on the management side. Well, she was their manager. She was heavy in on that side, but when you talk about that contract, I think TLC was on the hook for 8 albums, something like that.
Yeah,
quite a bit. It was a lot. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it was framed as a standard contract. I've I've seen the documentaries. I've seen everything. This contract was very one-sided. It was protecting Pebbles because of her investment. And it didn't help that the fact that Pebbles took these young ladies to LaFace, which was also during the time she was married to LA. So it was more in favor of what their interests were, more so than what it was for the young ladies.
But if you're writing a contract, I'm just playing the devil advocate here. If you're writing a contract and you don't know what's going to come out, it's kind of like in football. You know, basketball is a little bit different, but football, you know, you're assuming a lot of risk and you don't know what's going to happen. Right. Football, you could be one hit away. And the same in music. You could be one flop away or you could be one hit to superstar. You just never know what you're going to get. You see the potential. And I think it's more on management because management has a vision and they see what a group can be and what they can do. And it has to be a certain synergy there. So, you know, I can understand the contract in a way, but at the same time, if I'm putting forth the effort for you, you know, I'm gonna need you to trust. You know, I'm gonna have to trust you too. So, you know, in my personal opinion, I felt it could have been a little bit, you know, more friendlier to the girls. I'll put it that way.
Well, I look at it from the standpoint of, and this goes for anybody. Don't sign anything that you're not aware of.
Mhm.
I know you want to be stars. I know you want to be in the business, but the business is cold. The business is what it is, and you stay in business because of the fact you put yourself in the right positions. But you have
Business,
to
yeah.
understand, you have to understand that you need to read every line of a contract to understand what you are being subjected to, especially if you're not a solo act. If you're in a group, you really need to pay attention to that because of the fact, you know, how many people that are in your group, that's how you have to divide the pie.
But when you look at your circumstances of where you came from, yeah, and you know, you have to be patient too. But at the same time, you're limited because you're your business. These girls, what, 19, 20 years old at the time.
Yep.
Look at the situation they came from. All they're seeing is, okay, I get a record deal. It immediately equates to money. Money, money, money. I know I'm talented. I'm just got to put these records out and everything else will work out for itself. Now, you know, obviously there are business terms you don't know, but I guess what I'm trying to get to is this. I'm I'm signed to that label. I'm signing, getting ready to sign to this label. I don't know any lawyers, so I'm gonna ask the label. Do you have a lawyer I can talk to get this looked over?
Bad move.
Everybody's in business together.
Bad move. Bad move right there. But I'm gonna bring this up. You know, let's look at it from this standpoint. When we were younger, because during this time we were, you know, teenagers, early 20s, when they first came out. All of us wanted to be entertainers at some point or in some way. And there were opportunities that came up where, you know, you had the chance, you just wanted to be the entertainer. You didn't realize what all the business. If you're thinking back to those days of how the business was, and you look at how the business is now, where artists are taking more control over their content and over their actual work versus back in the day, I don't think if TLC came out now, I don't think that same deal would get made.
Right. But if you had the resources, if you're around enough people, because I think TLC was on the forefront of the Atlanta movement, you know. TLC, you know, then you had Outkast and you had Escape, the Brat, Jermaine Dupri. I mean, Jermaine was still in there pretty big and all that
Right.
stuff. But he was a producer, you know. I don't know if they had that relationship. But, you know, people started owning their masters more and more around that time. I mean, it even happened as early as in the 70s, 80s. It wasn't heard of as much, but you know, now it was more common.
You had to be a special talent back then to be able to own your masters. Because remember, this is during the 90s. This is when Prince sued Warner Brothers to get his stuff back.
Yeah.
Because Prince realized, hey, I'm doing all the work.
I'm the machine.
All the profit. You know
exactly.
what I'm saying? So, you know, and you talk about one of the greatest artists of all time. You know, he had to take a stand to get to the point where he could get his money back. But you know, keeping it back on TLC, you know, you got to look at it was a perfect storm for them. They had immediate success right out of the box. But you got to think about it. You're paying, you're paying for production. Okay. You got three of the biggest producers in the game working on your first album.
Yeah.
It is very, very hard not to run up a bill that's very sizable because of the fact they ain't giving you tracks for free.
But then you look at it on the back end. If they're that good, they're gonna sell if they deliver the product right, and they did,
and which they did. But nobody, I don't think nobody, even Pebbles, thought they were gonna be as big as they were.
Yeah,
and that's part of the. I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, definitely. So the first album comes out, on the TLC tip,
Man,
yeah,
banger from the start,
Oh yeah, I mean 1992, 93. I mean they took over the airway. They took over. I mean it was something fresh, something new. Females doing their thing, and they carried a slightly different message. And like you said, the culture was changing. They were at the forefront of it.
Right. They came out loud colors, baggy clothes, the condoms on the outfits over their eyes.
Yeah.
Hanging off them. It brought a different message that one, we wasn't ready for.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. And then two, they brought, a girl that could flow. You know what I'm saying? That had flow that could fit in with these other two ladies who had that nice tenor sound and then that nice alto sound that just made you, because I'll be honest, I love T-Boz. I just put it out there like that. Baby 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 is one of my favorite songs just because T-Boz, T-Boz got this kind of swag that I don't think a lot of females have ever had, and I'll just say it like that. T-Boz had this swag, like I'm all girl, but I can be rough when I need to be.
Yeah. As far as her voice, I think only her and Candy. I mean, but Candy had a little bit more range, but Candy had the kind of deep, as far as females go, a deep voice as well. But yeah, T-Boz was like quiet, but it was just something about it. It was like you said, it was just that swag. It was just something about it. She made you pay attention. I put it that way.
Oh yeah. And then like I say, they influenced everything. Now Chili always had long, pretty, curly black hair. But T-Boz used to rock the baddest haircuts, and everybody, I don't know how it was in Bishopville, everybody in Ridgeway, everybody up in Winsboro, everybody was rocking whatever T-Boz was rocking, they was rocking. Yeah. And in Ridgeway, we got some girls that look like T-Boz, so that used to be right up there.
Oh yeah, but I think when they first came out too, they almost made you pay attention because they were so different with their style. Hey, look at me, and then while you paying attention, they just wowed you with their talent. I mean, it was genius.
Well, I mean, if you look at the basis of the album, I mean, Ain't Too Proud to Beg kind of really was a breaking point. But honestly, if you just over the course of one album, you saw growth in them as a group over the course of one album. When by the time they got the Baby Baby Baby, you was like, okay, all right, yeah. And this was during the time when going to the HBCU was the thing. Being in Atlanta was the thing during that time. I remember, spending some time in Atlanta because the person I was dating at the time was going to Spelman. Being exposed to Atlanta during that period, understanding what Atlanta was a different thing, especially when you coming from here in Columbia, and it was totally, totally different. When you went to Atlanta, you saw it as different. Shout out to, I don't know if it's still around, probably not, Club Escape back in the day. That was the place.
I don't know.
I don't know either, but that was the place back in the day. Before there was a 112, Club Escape was the place to hang out, early 90s. So, Now we ain't gonna talk about the other clubs that we frequented in Atlanta,
On
but
the West End, yeah, okay,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Yeah.
We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. But I mean, but again, you see growth. So
Yeah.
when Baby is done, then you go to What About Your Friends? What About
Mhm.
Your Friends was a visual. I think Jermaine did that song. It was a visual thing to see them actually singing, dancing, and it was like, oh, this different here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, these girls ain't just giving us, vocals and raps. They giving us dance too.
Yeah. Now I gotta say this, sidebar. We've always been talented. We've always had stuff to say. So that's the beauty of TLC too, because they brought it to you in a very creative way. Same thing like with Escape. You're talking about topics that were relevant to the generation that they were a part of, but they brought it in a way that everybody could understand. And everybody. I mean, it was just a fresh voice. I mean, it was different twist. It wasn't traditional love songs or whatever, but it still spoke to us the same way.
Well, and then again, sticking to the album, when they got to Hat to the Back, and you
Mhm,
saw that video, and you saw them still dressing with the baggy clothes and everything, but at
mhm.
the end of the video, you saw them flip it and put on skirts and dresses. You were like, hold up,
Mhm.
what is it?
And then
Because up until that point, I don't think you ever really saw them as young women at that point. But when they did Hat to the Back, you had to make you take a step back, like, hold up, now these still girls,
mhm.
and they still got what we all look at as far as when we were at that age, like, oh,
Yeah,
okay, they can still be fly, and at the
yeah,
same time still hang out with us and chill, you
yeah. But
know.
still be a lady.
Yeah. So the thing was, because they had that wide range of how it looks and fashion and everything, they opened
Mhm,
the door for the other groups that was to come in the 90s. They opened the door for SWV, a Destiny's Child, a
mhm,
702, a Jade, a Black.
mhm.
Each group had their own identity. Nobody sounded the same. It's not like how it is now.
No. Yeah, I think in the '90s during that time, everybody strived to be different. We all ran together. We all enjoyed what everybody was bringing to the table. The messages were the same, but the delivery and the way they brought it to you was so different. So
Right,
I mean, you
right.
can see. I mean, not to take away from TLC, but you think about it. You think about some of the male groups you had back in the day. Boys and Men was like traditional R&B, but then you had Jagged Edge, you had Drew Hill, you had 112. Jodeci. So everybody
Uh,
saying about the same thing, bought it a different way.
it was brought the way it was marketed, the way it was packaged, the fashion that they brought out. There was no copycats
No.
in the 90s. I would say that was the biggest influence. Yeah, you might have came out, you might have been a girls group or a male group, but there was no copycats during that time. Everybody had their own distinct sound, look, fashion, the way they carried themselves, whether they just sung or danced or what.
Mm-hmm.
Prime example, Boys to Men was always clean cut, nice looking, brothers.
Yeah.
Jodeci was baggy pants, shirt open,
Mm-hmm.
hat to the back, standing in the desert with leather on, singing
And
"I
not
Cry
breaking
for
a
You,"
sweat.
ain't breaking
Yeah.
a sweat. You know what I'm saying? That's how
Mhm.
cool you were. That's the kind of stuff that they bought in the 90s.
Don't forget fiending with the straight jacket in the asylum. So
Oh, you can't go wrong with that.
no. And then
Can't
you
go.
had Jagged Edge, who was a kind of hybrid of both. They could do like the Boys and Men, but they could also with the leather with Jodeci. Now Drew Hill was just different. Drew Hill was
Drew Hill
Drew
was
Hill.
different because of the front.
Yeah.
If the front man wasn't what he is and what he still is to this day,
Yeah.
I don't think Drew Hill would have been as marketable as it was. He was by himself. Because don't get me wrong, I'll be the first person to say Drew Hill, all four of those brothers can sing.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
but they were able to tap into something different. And it's the same way it's the same way we look at TLC.
Yeah.
You had two beautiful females that were able to harmonize and sing, and then you had this little small chick that had this edge about her that could actually spit.
She was from Philly.
You know, she actually could spit, and that's something, you know, when you talk about and spit stuff that's relevant and not just talk about certain things and be a certain way. She could speak stuff that was relevant. So that's what made it so good, you know.
Yeah, 3 different personalities that found a way to coexist in one, you know.
Right.
So we're gonna fast forward from who on the TLC tip, because I think it's a good segue to what you were saying with Hat to the Back. You know, you started seeing them in a different light, and then out comes Crazy Sexy Cool.
But before we get to that, let's back up a minute. Now, this is how talented they were. The first album was primarily produced and written by Dallas, okay? But his co-writer on a lot of these songs was Left Eye, and nobody really realized that till much later in the process. Left Eye wrote a lot of these songs. It wasn't just the raps. She wrote a lot of these songs. So she automatically came in with a different persona from the start of TLC. It wasn't where, like, when we talked about with Escape, you know, they got that later on. They started from the start. Hey, we're gonna write our own material.
Yeah, that's what made them special, though.
Right.
In that regard, yeah. Definitely.
And then, you know, one of the things, you know, they blew up. They blew up. That first album blew up. They went out on tour. Remember, this is the early 90s. So MC Hammer is at the height.
Too legit.
Too legit to quit. He in videos, he with Dion, he with Andre Rison, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, the Falcons, you know, wasn't gonna win, but everybody liked him because Hammer was hanging out on the sideline and whatever.
Dirty Birds, yeah.
Yeah, you know.
The original Dirty Birds.
When they went out on tour, you know, out in the Southwest, you know, being hot and always on stage or whatever. This is where they found out that T-Boz had sickle cell.
Yeah.
Now, even to this day, you know, T-Boz is a spokesperson for sickle cell anemia. You know, she deals with it, and, you know, really and truly, she has done a remarkable job of managing her sickle cell to the point, because T-Boz, I think, is like 51, 52 years old.
45 is usually, you tap out at about 45. I hate to say it that way, but yeah, the life expectancy is around 45.
Is around 45. So T-Boz has managed this very well over the years, and you know, it's brought a lot of attention to folks that either have the trait or actually have the disease in the first place. And that came to the forefront because of them. But one of the things that they found out at the end of the tour, because they had to miss some dates and everything, because, you know, they decided they were a group, you know, I'm gonna stay with T-Boz until she gets better, and then so they missed a lot of tour dates at the end.
Yeah, about the last 2 weeks, I think it was.
Yeah. So what ended up happening was they realized after the tour was over with, you know, they had one of the biggest albums of the year, then been on tour. I ain't got no money, bro. You know, so there begins where we start looking at, what's wrong here? You know,
what's really going on?
We just sold 4 million albums and we don't have anything from that. We went on tour. Yeah, we had to cut the tour short because of sickness, but we don't have any money to show for it. And this is where lies the issues. And what all of this precipitates to was in 1993, they came up with probably, I would probably say, probably the most significant album of the 90s for a female group, Crazy Sexy Cool.
Of course. I mean, and that album was just that, Crazy, Sexy, and Cool.
Oh, yes, yes.
If there was ever an album title to be had for that album, that was it. That was definitely it.
All three of them, it personified their personalities at the time. Left Eye was crazy because, you know, she had been in, rehab because she had a drinking problem, but also because of the fact she was in a tumultuous relationship with Andre Rison at the time. So they went back and forth, and She burned his house down. So
well, actually, I'm gonna take up for it. She burned a pair of shoes, which happened to be in a fiberglass tub, which fire spread too quick because the tub melted, and she didn't know how to put it out. So therefore,
he burned his house down.
Well, I'm up for it, you know.
Not making fun of it.
Let's
just be real. He was out doing him.
Yep. Well, no, because he came home the next morning about 6 o'clock, and they got into it. He left again, and that's when it happened.
So she burned his house down.
But you know, there is a song out there, "When a Woman's Fed Up."
Mm-hmm.
Ain't nothing you can do about
it. I think that might have been the inspiration. He
got his own problems. Yeah, he got his own problems, but you know.
Yeah, but that might have been the inspiration for that song by itself. And then you had the sexy part, which was again T-Boz. Oh my God. T-Boz was, again, I say, the swag that she had was unlike nobody else's on. You know, I don't think
she was the homie, but she was still the girl, you know, your girl at the same time.
T-Boz had looks. You could look at her sometimes and you'd be like, man, get away from me, because you knew it was a problem. You know, the thing about Chili was you knew Chili was fine. You know, that never was a question, you know, but it was the thing about T-Boz. T-Boz, that voice and the way she danced, it was always, you know what? I ain't messing with you. You know what I'm saying? You're a prop. And then Chili was the cool part. And the reason why she was so cool was you never seen anybody with that personality being that fine and had that type of personality.
That is true. That is true. Just down to earth.
Yeah.
Very down to earth.
Yeah, you know, and during this time, I mean, they was on other people's stuff. I mean, you know, this was right during the time Outkast had getting ready to drop their second album, you know, and you know, they dropped some singing, some harmonization on their album, and you know, made it, you know, I think the second album for everybody at LaFace during that time was just, you know, off the chain.
Sophomore slump where? And what type of sophomore slump we talking about here?
There was no sophomore slump at LaFace in your second album, because if you stack it up, TLC, Outkast, Goody Mob, Usher, there was no sophomore slumps at LaFace. There was nothing you could actually say. During that time, LaFace ruled the music industry.
Now, you know, this is probably up for debate again too, but I think that's for as far as sophomore albums, yeah, Crazy Sexy Cool. But I think Goody Mob still standing, man. As much as I love Outkast, ATL, I mean, still standing with, man. I'm telling you, it was one for the books.
Again,
it was one for the books.
If you looking at sophomore albums from LaFace Records,
yeah,
still standing. Crazy Sexy Cool.
ATLiens. I mean,
ATLiens and Nice and Slow.
Yeah,
it's hard. It's hard to fight any of those, because all of those, and the intricate part of that is you looking at the second album. Everybody worked on the second album, worked on those same albums. There was a Dallas Austin, there was a Jermaine Dupri, a Babyface, Organized Noise, Chucky Thompson, Puffy.
Yeah,
that's what made those 4 albums between 93 and 97. You had to sit there and really be like, you know what? It's something going on.
To say.
It's something going on in the South.
And the thing about those 4 albums that you just mentioned, you can put anyone on and listen to it front to back, no problem.
No problem.
You're not skipping nothing. Which brings us back to Crazy Sexy Cool. I mean, it starts off, especially with their skits and all that stuff. But let's delve into one song in particular, Waterfalls. I think it was produced by Organized Noise.
Yes.
And during that time, I think I saw this on a documentary. Left Eye, they would allow her to come out of rehab, you know, to record. And I think she got out, she recorded, she saw like a rainbow on the way to the studio or whatever. And that gave her some inspiration. She dropped probably one of the most inspirational verses. One of the most inspirational verses.
Yes.
That you've heard. I mean, and it stood the test of time. The production, I mean, just that whole song. You know, that whole song, you know.
The thing about it is, Waterfall shows the vast array of talent that Rico and them had to actually do that song, man, because we outcast Goody Mob heads, you know what I'm saying? We know about the dungeon and everything like that. But for Rico and them to do that song and it sounds totally different from anything that they had done previously, and for that, probably I would probably say that's probably TLC's biggest song.
Yeah.
That
Scrubs, I think.
That and Scrubs, but then we'll tie that in later on too.
Yeah.
You think about it, that's a testament of the work that was put in by them. But the thing that flipped the script from the beginning on this whole album is they came out with Creep. And
yeah, definitely.
Creep was different because Creep showed them, like, hat to the back, Creep showed them in a whole totally different light. Them pajamas, man, was like the sexiest thing. And we talk about now, you see a lot of, when you watch videos now, there's a lot of ass out, a lot of breasts out, things like that. The sexiest thing you ever will see is go back and look at Creep video and just look at all three of them in them silk pajamas, one button, chilling, and it was like
they revealed just enough, yeah. But you listen to the message in it too, because nowadays everybody's out flamboyant. They don't care about this, they don't care about that. But the message in that for TLC was, I still got to get mine, but I don't want to hurt nobody feel.
Right.
Basically that's the premise of that whole song.
And I think it showed a more powerful, because that's basically T-bars. The whole song is basically T-bars on that. It showed a more powerful T-bars at that point, and it was like, you know what, man, they coming strong with this here, and it set the tone for the whole album because the video was hot, and the video blew up from the start. The only reason it didn't go to #1 on the R&B chart, during that same period, young lady Miss Mary J. Blige put out "Be Happy," and there really ain't nothing you can say.
You can't mess with the queen. Yeah, I mean,
when "Be Happy" came out, Mary sung that whole song, and this is another thing you can go and watch for yourself. Mary sings "I Want to Be Happy," sung that whole song, did not crack a smile the whole song. She sang in a song about "I want to be happy." Come on, man. There was a message in that, because Mary was telling you something, but then Mary always tells you something. She gives you a story, gives you background. But that is the only reason that song did not go #1. Highest it got on the R&B charts was #2. And the only reason it couldn't get to #1 because "Be Happy" came out and it kept it from, and then Mary followed that up with "I'm Going Down." You ain't gonna get in front of that one either, because that rendition is better than the original.
But I'm glad you brought that up, because TLC had a remake on Crazy Sex Cool as well, and a remake from none other than the artist. Everybody talks about Waterfalls, Creep, and all that stuff, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, on that album, didn't they remake Girlfriend?
Yep.
Yeah, so
they did. And for you to be, you have to be respected for Prince to allow you to do his work.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at. Exactly.
Because Prince didn't allow anybody to do his work. You had to be respected by him in order for you to do. And also, actually, he gave them 2 songs. He allowed them to do "Girlfriend," "If I Was Your Girlfriend," and then he also allowed them to do "Get It Up" on the Poetic Justice soundtrack, which was done by the time, but it was written by Prince. And that is a classic. "Get It Up," and TLC did it as well as Mars in the time. So that lets you know right there that Prince had a lot of faith in these young ladies to allow them to have access to those 2 songs.
So let me do this one more time. I think I need to do a rewind and say that one more time, just for our listeners, that they probably don't understand the significance of that.
I will say it in this form. Prince Rogers Nelson is the greatest musical genius of our time. nobody can touch him. Nobody can be on his level because Prince was everything. He was a musician, a producer, a singer, a songwriter. Nobody else can even get in that stratosphere. He did not allow people just to have his songs, just to have his songs. He graced you with the opportunity to redo or remake of his song. Any song that he has ever done, because people do not realize the far-reaching hands of Prince, Rogers, Nelson. Prince hands is on everybody. Prince made you better. If he gave you something, he made you better because of the fact there was nobody that could match him. And I would say, even to the point of, we all say Quincy is the greatest producer of all time.
He is.
I don't even think Quincy could match Prince song for song if he wanted to. And Quincy has bangers. Think about it.
I'm thinking.
Prince B-sides, bruh. Back in the day when we used to have B-sides on the 45, Prince B-sides are some of the greatest songs that have ever been written.
I'll put it like this. I would probably still say Quincy as mine, and Prince would probably say the same thing. It's just that I would say this: Quincy laid the blueprint, Prince got it and ran with it. It's kind of like the Michael Jackson, Chris Brown dancing thing. I think as a total talent, I have to agree with what I heard Tank say. As a total talent, Chris Brown is superior, but nobody topping Michael Jackson though. So I would say, yeah, Quincy would probably be still considered a greater producer, but Prince took what Quincy started and took it in a whole different direction. Because during Quincy's time, a lot of the things that he did weren't heard of. They were unprecedented. With Prince, same deal, but I think the groundwork was laid a little bit for him prior to. And that's the only reason why. Now, as far as his songs, yeah, Prince probably has a lot more. But just breaking that barrier and doing what he did first, that's why I would have to give it to Quincy.
Well,
just from that standpoint.
Well, I'll say like this here. Anytime you are a man that writes 5 songs a day, complete songs, and then if you are a Prince fan like I am, and then you realize how he wrote some of these songs, he wrote Little Red Corvette because they parked beside a red Corvette.
Hey, you're talented. I'm not taking anything away from the talent.
The first time that they played and recorded Purple Rain was actually in the movie. Nobody realizes that. If you're not a Prince fan, you don't realize the first time that song's ever recorded and did it in one take.
One take, yeah. But on the flip side, Quincy did the theme song for Sanford and Son, man. Hey, case closed.
Say no more, bro. Say no more, because look at it. You cannot get in front of Fred G. Sanford. I'm sorry. No. There's no way you can get in front of Fred G. Sanford. Fred G. Sanford is the man.
Exactly.
Will always be the man because you cannot out-talk trash Fred G. Sanford.
No, at all. Now let's jump back on this Crazy Sexy Cool because this album was great. Album was great from front to back. At song 16.
Which one that is, bro?
Something Wicked. This Way Come. We get a snippet from our LaFace brethren, who's also a Dungeon family member.
Yes.
Remember back at the time when the only signs we had were pickets. We're talking about the one and only Andre 3000.
Yes, sir.
And, that was just a great way to close that album out. That was a very powerful song, man. You couldn't end an album any other way.
And you have to remember when Crazy Sexy Cool came out, Cass had not dropped their first album yet.
No.
It was to come the following spring.
Yeah. That made you take notice. Who is this?
Who this is?
I'm telling you, man. That was
who this is? Because they were like, whoa, where this coming from? Yeah. Cass had not dropped the first album yet. You know what I'm saying? So that led to, okay, LaFace finna be the power that we knew it was going to be.
Of course.
The girls, however, Creek was great. Waterfalls, they made a song. Video Music Awards, their performances were great.
Over 10 million sold. I think I don't know if it was just that album. I think it was just that album. I think
that album was 10 million.
Yeah, that album went double platinum.
Yeah, just that album was 10 million.
So I'm gonna let you go ahead and say it. And go ahead. I know where you're going with it.
Red Light Special was, on the sexy tip. Really, that was another version of Chili on that that we saw. Digging on You was another version of Chili and T-Bars on that.
And don't forget, Fife was on there too. Now Fife was on that album.
Fife Dog, Tribe Called Quest. But you the biggest selling group of 1993, 94.
Didn't they win Album of the Year too?
Album of the Year.
You know what I'm saying?
Because they had the greatest album of the year that year. You could not take anything from them. But you had all this success, and you got to file Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
And I'm gonna speak to that because I was watching the documentary because Left Eye told me, and I did it. Get your calculator because she was gonna break it down. On that album, they had 7 points. 3 people, 7 points. A point is worth 8 cents. So for each album they sold, it was getting 50 cents off of that. So they sold 10 million. That was what, 5.6 million?
$5.6 million.
They owed half of that to LaFace.
Yes.
And then taxes. And then the lawyer fee.
Yes.
And then the production costs.
Yes.
They had to pay everybody. So between 93 and 94, I think what it was said that each member made about $50,000 a piece.
$50,000. You're the biggest group in the world, and all you made was $50,000.
You selling out arenas, you putting your body through the ringer because, yeah, concerts are fun, touring is fun, but it takes a lot out of you. And keep in mind, T-Boss has sickle cell.
Right.
You going through the ringer because you're doing something that you love to do. But this is the end game. This is the dirty side of the business that we all talk about. Well, nobody wants to talk about, but we all know about. There's no reason why. They said it themselves. To this day, people still don't believe that they were broke. But you're all over the world. 50,000.
I believe it because of the fact the deal was jacked up from the start. The thing that when I was doing research for this, the thing that I didn't like is that LA was holding them to this contract. I with them being in the business as performers as well as record executives, I would have thought that they would have had a better understanding of, man, y'all really doing bad news to these girls, and they really are your flagship group on the label.
But here's the question though: was it them? Because from a record deal standpoint, they had to get what they had to get, but Peppertone was because you still owe them too. Even though you got out of that contract, even though you fired Pebbles as a manager, Peppertone was kind of still there.
She was still with her hand in the cookie jar, and the bad thing about it was so intertwined in this whole deal that either way she was gonna get paid.
Yeah, the lines were kind of grayed out. Yeah.
Or anything. So they was gonna, in order for them to get from under Pebbles, they was gonna have to buy their way out, and somebody was gonna have to come with some cash to help them get to a better place. Now, the person that helped them get to a better place just happened to be Babyface in LA, because during this time, LA and Pebbles had broke up as husband and wife. She was already trying to get him, for more than probably what she probably, being as a woman, as a wife, in a divorce settlement, you trying to get all you can. I don't know how he avoided not losing LaFace during that time. Probably because Babyface and Tracy probably had the majority stake in it, which probably was a smart deal on his part.
Yeah.
Just to keep him from getting beat up like that in the divorce proceedings. But biggest thing was they looked at it. They was in $3.5 million worth of debt. They the biggest group,
Mm-hmm.
had sold the most albums, ain't making no
Mm-hmm.
money, go on tour, ain't making no money. What
Mm-hmm.
was they gonna be able to do? So they took a little brief hiatus, man.
5 years.
And you have to, because that's stressful,
Yeah.
because you've been working hard, doing everything that you possibly can do,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to the point where you don't have no money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it starts to wear on you. And also during this time, if you pay attention to Crazy Sexy Cool, there was more R&B songs. There wasn't a whole lot of room for rap. There were places where there was raps in the song. There wasn't
But
a whole lot of rap.
no. And T-Balls wasn't, I mean, not T-Balls, but Left Eye. Normally she'd be doing all of it, but like I said, you had guest appearances and all that stuff on there. So, it's kind of like they were making a transition. Granted, TLC was an R&B group, but what made them unique and what made them special was the addition. I mean, what Left Eye brought to the table. It made them unique. So, but
Well, what I realized when I was doing the research for this was she didn't sing a lot of backup on these songs. On the second album or the third album, she didn't sing a lot of vocals. So really, what was Left Eye doing during this period? You
working
know,
on the solo stuff.
and yeah, she worked on her solo stuff, but I'm looking at it from the standpoint of you. What are you? If you're in a group
Mm-hmm.
and your position is not being played in that group,
Mm-hmm.
what is your process? How does that make you feel? How does that make you think?
It's hard to buy in. It's hard to buy in a situation like that.
Right. Because, you're looked at, you went from being probably in the forefront on the first album, because that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of how it was. You were in the forefront. To the second album, you kind of in the back seat, and they really not paying as much attention to you. The reason why they was paying attention to you had nothing to do with music. It was because of what you was going through personally.
Exactly.
You know,
And I think you spoke well to that, because the first album, yeah, everybody shined in the first album.
right.
And the second one, granted, now she had the most powerful verse, in my opinion, in the whole album with Waterfall's verse, but that was one little snippet.
I would put them bars that she did on Waterfalls up there with anything 3000 has done. That's
Yeah.
how good it was.
Yeah, because he dropped some jewels on the album.
Yeah.
She said some stuff on that.
Yeah, she put it down on that one. And that was a eye opener for a lot of folks, because it touched you in a different way. It wasn't just the way when she did with Ladies Night with the Brat and Missy and Lil Kim and all them. That was a different form.
Right. But I mean, it was personal. That verse was very personal.
Right.
So, we get to the point where they're finally free and they're out of bankruptcy or whatever, and they're getting ready to get started on their third album. They had to kind of convince Left Eye, I guess, to get started to actually come back and do that fan mail. And of course, that's during the time we all know what happened. Once recording started and everything, Left Eye was spending a lot of time in Honduras. She was learning about herself. Becoming, I guess, just cleansing herself, doing the things that she wanted to do, because she was also, according to the documentaries and what I've read as well, working on her solo project. Still with the group, but still doing her own thing. So
Well, she released a solo project overseas, and it had some movement overseas. But when she released it here in the United States, it fell flat.
And that's only because people want, they knew Left Eye, but they were bigger fans of TLC.
Right. Right.
It doesn't take away from her artistry or what she was able to do, or the how good the project was. Because I mean, I'm pretty sure it was good.
I think it was another side to it too. You got to remember, when she came out with this album, I think it was 96, 97, somewhere in there. This is at the height of Little Kim. So Little Kim had overtaken the female rap genre at that time, also with Foxy Brown. There was this,
but I'm pretty sure Left Eye's message was totally different from Kim the Fox's as well.
Oh, most definitely. Kim,
we all
Kim,
know about Kim. Yeah.
Look, Kim first album, hey, I mean, you can't take anything away from that. The cover says it all. You know, been many a days, because that was up in Skeet Room at South Carolina State, and it was up in his room at the house. So, you know, it was that was different altogether, because, you know, we had never seen nothing like that. And then when you heard Foxy Brown spit, that kind of really, you know, upped the ante. And the thing was, we already knew what the Brat was bringing to the table. You knew what Missy was bringing to the table. That was different. So Left Eye had to find her niche in where was she going to fit in, because you're talking about, when you're talking about female rappers, that was during the time you had 4 of the best female rappers ever going at that time. So where were you going to fit in that genre? Because you had 2 that was about the sex and being the man eater per se, and then you had 2 that was just straight hip hop spitters. You know, Brat and Missy was spitters.
Kind of had her own game too. She could get down, but Missy was. I want to call it fun rap, because Missy still could rap, but I don't know how you would categorize. Missy was kind of a free spirit, but don't play with. I'll put it that way.
Well, the thing about Missy is, Missy had the ability that she could sing, she could rap, she could produce,
and she had a different sound. I think
her sound was different, and her look was different. And what I mean by look was, she gave you illustrations through video that nobody else gave you.
Exactly.
You know, nobody else. Only person I could compare to her from a video standpoint is Busta.
Because, but you know, 3000 said it best. She looked like what the music sounded like.
Right. That was what Missy was. You know what I'm saying? Now Brat was like on the corner. I'm gonna spit. I can outspit any dude. That's how it was, and that's how Jermaine packaged her, and that's what made her what she was. But with Left Eye, you didn't know, okay, which way you was gonna go with this.
Yeah.
You know, so that was kind of, like I said, now many times artists release albums overseas and they do very, very well, because people overseas have a more open ear to music than your general American population does.
Yeah.
A lot of times you can be big, truly big overseas, and not be anything here in America. So there's no knock that it wasn't a good album. It just wasn't hidden in the same way, and it wasn't getting the play that it probably should have. And then also, this deal was done, I think this deal was done on, I want to say Elektra.
I'm not sure.
I can't remember. It's either Elektra or Epic Records. Okay. So the thing is, if you're already not on the label that is currently with you as a group, it's going to be hard for you, because they're not going to put forth the effort to put you out in the forefront if they would, if you was on your same label. So if she had did this, since they were signed to LaFace, and LaFace at the time was part of Arista, had she put it out through Arista, it would have got more play than it did than being on your own, in your own record deal.
True. I'm looking that up now. I think Arista put it out.
Arista put it out?
Yeah. And L.A. Reid helped. He was one of the producers on that. Lisa and L.A. Reid.
That might be the problem then. Now that you say that, because the problem wasn't that they had competing. Having LA do that album probably wasn't the best, because LA should not have ever had an opportunity to do a rap album. I'll just say it like that.
The thing about it was she released that album on her own. Arista canceled it. I mean, the album was done, but they never supported her putting it out, so she put it out on her own.
Right.
So,
Which you ain't gonna get nowhere unless you Master P doing it on your own like that.
yeah. So, yeah, that's what happened with that.
Okay.
So,
So they get back in, they do fan mail, and the buzz they back together was so big, so happening. Then they drop probably I say it's probably their most sold song, but really Irrelevancy is their second greatest song to me, which is No Scrubs.
no scrubs, yeah. Written
Prominently,
by
prominently written by Tiny and
Candy.
Ken.
Mm-hmm.
So No Scrubs became the anthem back in '98. No, I don't want your number.
I remember
Why
that
you
time.
hollered at me? You on the passenger side. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? You ride. You know.
Which, yeah, prior to that, I mean, you get away with it, but after that,
Nah.
no,
You
couldn't do
know.
it.
And that began a revolution in actuality, because if you grew up like we grew up, you was always riding with one of your fellas or whatever, you know, and that's how you would holler at women.
Of course.
You know, you on the passenger side, oh, yo, bro, pull up, pull up, pull up. Let me holler at you.
Yeah, because that's your wingman. You can't see you driving. So, I mean,
Right.
hey.
Right. So he got to tell you what's what and everything. So that changed the dynamic, and it changed the way women were approached from that point, because you couldn't come at them like that
No.
from that point, because they started realizing, you know what I'm gonna talk to you for, and you rad.
Exactly. Yeah.
Uh, harsh way to look at reality, but it is what it is.
It
You
is
know.
what it is. So,
And then also that album, you know, garnered Unpretty, which was a paid homage to shaming of people's bodies and things of that nature, trying to fit an image that at the time, you know, I ain't gonna say. I think it changed. I think that was during the time a lot of things changed for women during that time. You didn't have to be pencil thin anymore. We started looking at you for the individuals that you were. I think that's when you didn't want to be a Barbie doll anymore.
you appreciate the skin you were in.
Right. So you start getting more and more confident, and I think that song helped a whole lot. You know, if you had a little extra role that ain't nobody, you know, you didn't hide that no more. You know what I'm saying? You put it out there. You like
You
you love it.
appreciated what you had.
You know,
That's the thing.
and the thing was, you know, fellas start actually paying a different attention to you too, because it was like, you know what, that's confidence, and that
The
to
confidence. That's the
and this
thing. Yeah.
this is the thing. And to all you women out there that listen to this podcast, I'm telling you something. It ain't about what you look like.
It's about your
It's
confidence.
about your confidence. If you confident in yourself and you carry yourself in the right way, and you are about something, and when I say you're about something, you doing it, you take care of yourself, you make sure everything is good and whatever, and you confident that you're gonna make it through, and you ain't dependent on nobody, that is very, very sexy to a brother.
Yeah.
You know.
And let's face it. I mean, nothing lasts forever. You can be fine today, anything can happen. I mean, over time, and you can take care of yourself, but everything's gonna change for men and women.
Oh yeah.
You got to have that confidence in yourself. And I think by people, I mean, not just women. I mean, yeah, TLC put that out there, but if you have confidence in yourself, that leads to conversation. It's nothing superficial. It leads to a deeper understanding, a deeper connection.
Well, again, we always talk about growth. And as you become the bigger artist, and the longevity that you have is because of the growth that you have in your music. You started for TLC, you started at a point where you was about having fun. If we're gonna do what we're gonna do, let's protect ourselves. We partying till when we get into the latter stages, we've grown up. This is not how I want things to be. Uh, I need a man. I need a man. Let's put it like that: a real man,
Exactly.
not a boy. I need somebody that's not gonna be superficial. I need somebody that's gonna be about me and understand that, you know, what I'm bringing to the table, I need somebody to be equal or more than what I am.
Exactly. Exactly. So getting back into this album, I think the accident with Left Eye happened in April. I still remember that because I think we were all at work when we got the news
Yeah.
that happened. And so from April, it took them until September, I think, to finally finish that last album.
Well, they couldn't finish it. I mean, they were devastated because I remember that day it happened, and it was like,
You
man,
lost a family member. I'm telling you, yeah.
you know, it was, you know, and the year before we had just been through with Aaliyah, so it was like,
Yeah.
and I'll be the first person to say, I mean, even to this day, it's hard. It's hard for me to watch Rock the Boat because I know that's the video that she died making. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and then if you really pay attention to Rock the Boat, you look at Aaliyah and you like, man, it was something different about her on Rock the Boat, and it was like
she was about to be a problem. She was about to. I mean, she was already a superstar, but she was about to be a serious problem in the industry.
She was gonna be, you know, we probably go. I'm gonna catch flack for this, but I'll be the first person to say it. And I've said this years ago. It's not nothing new. If Aaliyah doesn't die, is there a Beyonce?
Look, man, I don't need no bees flying all around this podcast.
No, I'm just saying. It's not about the beehive. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is truly and truly, if you think about it, Aaliyah would have been as big, or if not bigger, than Beyonce.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was the triple threat. She
mm-hmm.
could act, she could sing, she could dance. What do Beyonce do? Act, sing, dance.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Aaliyah was doing a little bit more than I think she even, you know, with her with her untimely passing, I think she still had more acting than Beyonce does to this point.
No, no. She had things in the works because she was supposed to be in the Matrix Resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't get, because the part that Nona Gay played in, that was going to be her part. But when she got killed, Nona Gay got that role. You know, her brother finished up the parts in Queen of the Dam. You know, Romeo Must Die is a cult classic. You know what I'm saying? And even in that video, I mean, in that movie, you look at a couple of times, Jet Li, she had Jet Li in that movie.
Yeah.
You know, and a couple of times you look at him like, bro, you didn't fell into the spell just like everybody else, because there was nothing you couldn't say or do about Leah at that point. You know,
they called her baby girl for a reason,
right? You know, and Left Eye, when she died, it left that void. So you can imagine. Now, granted, Left Eye had made some noise when they finished Fan Mail about, you know, yo, it's getting more and more less of me rapping on TLC songs. I don't sing backup. What's my purpose?
Right.
But in reality, Left Eye was the heart and soul of TLC.
Yeah.
You know, when she died, it virtually killed TLC. Now, TLC has had one more project since the death of Left Eye. But probably the only thing that I can say has been significant is when they did Crooked Smile with J. Cole. Now, again, hard to mess up something when you got J. Cole on it.
Yeah.
You know, all they singing is the hook, but it's hard to mess up something when you got J. Cole on.
Yeah.
You know, J. Cole.
It's kind of a follow-up to Unpretty though.
Right. Right, because you know he looked at it from the standpoint, but it also gave them an opportunity, man, to get themselves back out there. You know what I'm saying? To a new generation, because it wasn't reliant on having Left Eye to rap in that song. It was, I need Chilla and T-Bars to harmonize on this song and make it what it is.
Yeah, what it needs to be. Yeah, what it can be, everything it could be. So yeah, definitely. So I think man, I guess, well, wow. We covered a lot, you know. I think we can probably go on for another couple of hours or so, but to put a bowl thing, man, what do you want to leave the listeners with, I guess, for this one?
Well, TLC sold 65 million albums during their short period of time, and I'll say their short period of time. I'll say from 1990 to 2001, they sold 65 million albums, the biggest selling girls group of all time. Okay, that is not to be taken lightly. Again, super talented, open the doors for other female groups that we're going to continue to talk about in this series. But they are probably the most significant because of the fact they had crossover appeal. They were universally loved by everybody because of the fact of the message that they brought originally, and then to the point where they got toward the end of their careers. The thing about it is their songs are still relevant. Again, is what we always talk about. Talent trumps everything else. When you have true talent, you have longevity in this business. You're not a flash in the pan. You're not anything that is gonna burn out quickly like a sparkler. You're gonna shine like a star that you are. And you think about it, it's been 30 years since they originally came out, and the influence that they continue to have is still felt. You can't say that. I think, and that's one of the things about this series, and I'm glad we're doing it. Everybody that we're going to talk about in this series has longevity because of the fact they have talent. They not going to be somebody that's going to be one-hit wonders.
True. That is true. I mean, they put a catalog together. I think you summed it up well, very good. I think they were relevant for their time, pioneers of the time, because, like you said, they came out flamboyant. They forced you to say, "Hey, look at me," and while you're looking, they just hit you with message after message after message, and you saw the talent that was there. And I think the biggest takeaway from this, even though they had their hiatus, regardless of what they were going through, they stayed true to their craft because they love music. So, I mean, even through the bankruptcy, all that other stuff, the problems with management and all that stuff, they continued to do what they loved best. And that kept them rounded and grounded. They never shied away from the music. And even when they took the hiatus, both T-Bars and Chili, they said to themselves they couldn't wait to get back into the studio because that's what they loved. That's where they felt comfortable.
Well, so, the thing about both of them is they've carried on. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They Left Eye is irreplaceable. You cannot replace Left Eye, no matter how hard you try. There could never be anybody else come in and take that spot.
Yeah.
The thing about both of them was you have to do something else when you're not making music. And each one of them have a talent that I can continue to broaden my horizons. T-Bars is an accomplished actress right now. You know what I'm saying? She's an accomplished producer right now. Those are things that you have to have. Chili is an accomplished producer right now. Over years and years and years, you understand of how to put things together and how to make things work. And then, to be honest, if you actually look at them, they still look like they did when they was 18, 19 years old, man. So I don't know whether they didn't found the youth down there in Florida or whatever, but somehow, some kind of way, they still look like they did when they first came out. And again, early 90s, they were the trendsetters. Period.
Yeah.
Everybody took their cues from them to how they wanted to be. Without TLC, you can't have SWV. SWV is the quintessential East Coast girl singing group.
You know what I'm saying? Without TLC, you probably wouldn't have a lot of what you have going on in the South right now. TLC, you probably wouldn't have Outkast. You wouldn't have Escape, because of the connections that they had, with Rico Wade, and then Rico, and because of their connections with LaFace, they got FaceTime with Rico Wade, to get the whole Dungeon Family thing started. So, I mean, now I'm not going to say they wouldn't exist, but it wouldn't be the same as what we know.
No, I don't think it would be the same, because you got to figure like this. When you look at LaFace, and I'll use LaFace as the center of that universe. again, you during the mid-90s, you had 4 of the biggest acts in R&B, all was on LaFace. R&B and rap was all on LaFace. People don't realize Usher Raymond, the star that he is today, was on LaFace with them. You know what I'm saying? Goody Mob, Outkast, you know, they rap gods. You know what I'm saying? TLC was the 4th member of that quartet, and they pretty much laid the groundwork. I give you another. Pink signed with LaFace Records. LaFace put Pink out first. You know what I'm saying? So it was the opportunity to put Atlanta on the map.
Yeah.
Couple that with So Def, with Escape, Brat, Bow Wow, Jagged Edge. You had what you needed. And I would go against anybody that say during that period of time, the South was unbreakable, because what you had going on in Atlanta, you had the birth of what was going on in Memphis, and you had the birth of what was going on in Houston with the Ghetto Boys and everybody down there. And people forget, and people don't realize DJ Premier, as big as Premier is, and everybody think he's a New York DJ, Premier comes from Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So this was the birth of where we are from a hip hop and R&B standpoint. And these are the starting points that we're talking about. And again, all of these people that we have named is longevity. This is what, if you don't take nothing else from these podcasts, realize something. These people have longevity in this business because of the fact they are talented at their craft.
And your talent will make room for you every time.
Every time. You're gonna have a spot. People gonna remember you. You know what I'm saying? You still getting streams 30, 40 years later. Because
you had something important to say.
You had something to say, and you got talent. I say it, and I'll say this until we finally stop with this here. Prime example of talent. Walter and Eddie of the OJs have been singing for 65 years. They are coming up on their last tour. Y'all don't realize the catalog that they have. They ain't even got to do nothing.
That's true.
But they still out there.
Now, you know me, I always got to do something dumb. So I'm going to shut the podcast down like this. You know, they got talent. But sometimes when you go through some things and you can write about it, you know, that's kind of deep too. I don't know another song Lenny Williams got. But that one song. Yep, this is the kind of stuff
let's call that an anomaly, okay? Let's say that, okay? Because the thing about we got to do a show on Lenny, just because of the fact, Lenny, let's be real about this here. I don't know if you got another song, because I've never heard another song from you.
And he probably got a couple of albums out there.
He probably do. But it don't matter. You never gonna outdo I'm in Love.
No, because I love you. No, you're not gonna outdo that. No.
You're never gonna outdo that.
I don't know who that woman was.
I don't want no parts of her.
I know parts.
I don't want no parts of her, bro. Cause look here. Me and you and the boys have had a many days sitting down, talking, laughing, joking. I don't think none of us ever said, you know, maybe I've never been in love. No. Maybe you've never been in love like I've been in love. And had none of us look at you like, huh?
No.
We done had some dumb conversations, but that ain't been one of them.
No.
I done had a spade game stop, but I ain't never had a dumb conversation like that.
No. And to put it on record. And I mean, you felt it. I mean, so I know what he was feeling. I felt it. So I know. I can only imagine what he was feeling.
Bruh, I don't know if y'all got it. Y'all got it in Atlanta like we got it here. But if you listen to the Big DM every night, rounds about 11:30 to anywhere from 11:30 to 12:30, it gonna get played.
Oh yeah.
Okay, because somebody going through something.
And we're not talking about what is it, Overnight Celebrity?
No,
no, it's
no,
not
we're
it.
not talking about
That's
that.
not the one. No,
we talking about, girl, you know I love you, because somebody is
he made
hurt.
the song cry before Jay-Z did. I put it that way.
Bruh, whosoever, and yes, I said whosoever.
Yeah.
Whosoever this woman was that broke Lenny heart,
She need to be ashamed of herself.
I don't want no part. I don't want no parts of her.
She ain't had to do that man like that. I don't know what they got to do with TLC, but you know,
Ain't got nothing to do with it.
You always get something out the ordinary.
Well, I had to put that out there. This is our podcast. This is what we do. You ain't gonna stay on topic. I can go and tell you that right now.
No, you're not. It's not gonna happen. No.
But again, ask your daddy. For y'all youngsters that's out there, ask your parents what they know about Lenny Williams. Cause I love you. Don't look at what Steve Harvey did on the Kings of Comedy. Don't pay that no attention. Listen to the song for real.
But first, what's gonna happen is when you ask your parents, if they come up in that era, they're gonna get quiet on you for a second.
Oh yeah.
And they're gonna reminisce.
You're gonna take
them back. They're gonna shake their head. And they're like, dang, poor Lenny. But then they're gonna let you hear it if you want to. Listen to it at your own discretion.
When they tell you about it, they're gonna tell you about one, and they could be been with your mama for 50 years, but they're gonna tell you about that one. Boy, let me tell you about that one. Woo. Yeah, it had me messed up.
I see why Lenny's saying what he's saying.
Ain't lying. If it wasn't for your mama, if you hear the man say, if it wasn't for your mama, your mama saved me because I was gone. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that true dealing there, bro. That true dealing.
That was real love back then, though.
Yeah.
Not to say we don't have it now, but it was on a deeper level back then.
Well,
you didn't have all the gadgets, you didn't have all the distractions you have nowadays. I mean, when people love, they love.
No, it was all about your woman. That's all it was about, you know. But to segue back, we'll finish it up. TLC, greatest female group of all time, I would say. Significance, unmeasurable significance. And in 2 weeks, when we do our next podcast, we're gonna go to probably their biggest influence on a group. And I'm just gonna go put it out there. Get ready for SWV. Coco, baddest singer. Baddest
and the longest fingernail. But anyway, I digress.
Baddest singer. Because right now, even to this day, I don't think it's but a handful of people that could hang with her singing. I'll just put it out there just like that. So SWV will be the third part of our series. Looking forward to that in 2 weeks. Again, also we're expanding. We got some other parts that's going to be coming off with the podcast. Again, thank everybody for listening. Again, enjoying this here. We got some sports that's going to be coming up in the next month or so. Looking forward to it. And then we get back into talking about these musical things, because you know we love the thing. One thing about me and Kelsey, we always gonna talk about the things that we love. We love music, we love sports. So we're gonna talk about the things that we love. And if something comes up that's relevant that we feel like we need to talk about, we'll talk about it. But the thing is, this is a we don't want this to be about news. You know, we want this to be about something that you take your mind off something for an hour and a half, sometimes maybe longer, depending on what the situation is. I know we got some,
I think some of this podcast is fun and foolish at the same time.
Yeah, you know, and again, we promising y'all some guest stars. And when I say guest stars, I want y'all to realize something. We don't do this podcast to bring stars on this podcast. When we say guest stars, we mean our friends and our family. Something that we sitting around, and what we would typically do if we was around the cookout. If me and Kelsey was in the same place, I'm on the grill, he's sitting down, we got some cards, we playing, we doing what we normally would do. The same kind of conversation that we have when we all together.
That's it. This is Everyday Podcast for the people.
Yep. And look at it, we got some fools now. It's just y'all just hear us two. We probably the comments ones out of the group.
That is true.
You know,
I will attest to that. That is true.
so we got some fools that we gonna put on this. Like y'all gonna really be like, oh, y'all really all the comments ones out of this group, you know. And once we get started, we get started. You know, we even got we'll probably wait toward the end of the year to jump on this one, but I mean, we got a wrestling podcast. I mean, we love everything. You know what I'm saying? This is what we used to do. Wait, before we were married men, you know, we'd sit around and we'd watch, you know, wrestling with the fellas and we'd talk out our problems, you know, because this is how we came up with She Good Peoples.
Therapy.
That's
all to it.
She Good People.
She good people. Yeah,
she good people. Yeah. Good people. Oh, one of the greatest speeches of all time. She good people.
That's it. That's it.
I love it. I love it.
And on that note,
we'll see y'all later. Y'all have an excellent week. Again, like I say, in 2 weeks, we will be back and ready to go.
That's it. Appreciate everybody. See you in 2.